Hey everyone, I'm Johnsison, and today we're taking a look at the Samyang 10mm F3.5 XP lens. The Samyang 10mm F3.5 is a lens created for DSLR cameras, specifically Canon and Nikon, and I am using it on my Sony A7 III via an adapter. But the cool thing about this is that I do have XF data coming through, so I know what settings I've used on this camera while using this lens, as well as aperture control and stabilization. Because the A7 III has stabilization built in, all I need to do is manually set it in the menus. Now the XP range from Samyang is basically the best of the best when it comes to optics and glass and coatings from what the manufacturer has to offer. These lenses are touted to resolve more than 50 megapixels, and if you shoot video, it can go up to 8K in terms of cinematography. So these lenses are going to be future-proof for whatever uses you have it for. Let me also say it is a manual focus lens, so if you want to use autofocus, you may need to look elsewhere, but I will say this lens is amazing for what it offers when it comes to image quality. I do love using this lens, and you know, if you are using it on a mirrorless body, having an adapter does make it a bit cumbersome. All right, so this is what the lens actually looks like. It's very simple in terms of the design. You do have the rubber focus ring here, which I will say is fairly nice and damp. Great for precise manual focusing, but on an ultra wide angle lens, focusing is very easy. Now you do have a little bit of a texture here, which is meant to make it a bit easier to grip, but personally I do prefer just holding the lens with the rubber focus ring because it's just a bit more easier to grip onto. Now there is a lens hood that you can't detach, so it stays on all the time. It's not necessarily a bad thing because it does help protect the front element somewhat from any bumps or scratches or even breakages, which if you do break it, obviously it's going to cost a lot to either repair or replace. The main use for the lens hood is to block out any flare from the sun or any other light sources. Now taking a look at the bottom, there is electronic contacts, so you're going to get XF data coming through the camera with whatever settings that you use to take your photos, but unfortunately there are no weather seals on the lens itself. Now if you're using it on a Canon or Nikon DSLR, all you need to do is just mount the lens on your camera and you're good to go. But if you're a person like me, you're also going to need an adapter, so all I need to do is connect that adapter to my A7 III, so that makes it very easy to use. And like I said earlier, all I need to do is set the stabilization to 10mm if I really wanted stabilization. Now that's very simple in terms of the design. It is a bit front heavy when I am using it on my Sony A7 III. It does weigh about 731 grams, so just take note of that. But to be honest, using this type of lens and with my A7 III, it's still fairly light to some extent. Now because of that front element that sticks out, you can't attach any screw-in filters. There are some filter holders on the market, but they are a bit difficult to find, so you just have to make sure that you get the right one that is made specifically for the 10mm f3.5. So the Samyang 10mm is actually a 130-degree angle view, so that is a lot that it can actually capture, which is pretty cool, I will say. But you know, if you're shooting like landscape or architectural photography, you do have to really think about how you take your photos because it is just so wide. You can capture so much of an area that sometimes what you want to focus on, for example, can be lost in how much scenery is in the photo. So you just have to be careful when it comes to that. Now the bokeh is fairly smooth. It's not the best in my opinion, but because it is an ultra wide angle lens, it really isn't meant to be one of its strongest points. But having an f3.5 aperture does make this more useful in low light. The images appear extremely sharp, especially in the centers. It does fall a bit when it comes to the edges and the corners, but you know, you can still get away with it because it is still very sharp, very good for what it actually offers, especially when you consider what kind of focal length you're looking at. Now there is a little bit of vignetting which can be fixed in post, but when it comes down to chromatic aberrations and distortions, they're very well controlled. Colors and contrasts are very appealing, which is, to be honest, more reason for me why I love this lens. Now the Samyang 10mm f3.5 is a lens I would highly recommend, especially if you value image quality over everything else. Now like I said, it is only manual focus, but on an ultra wide angle lens, that is very easy to use anyway. And in terms of what it actually does offer, Images are extremely sharp, distortions are virtually non-existent, and chromatic aberration is very much non-existent as well. If anything, I did wish that Samyang did offer this in an E-mount body, so a mirrorless alternative, but for now I'm just going to have to stick to using an adapter. This lens is extremely fun to use. You can actually get some very interesting perspectives out of it. It basically changes a lot of the perspectives of what you see in day-to-day life. But in saying that, you do have to be careful of what you capture. It's not just a lens that you can just capture everything with. You have to think about more of your composition as well. But I guess that goes hand in hand with any type of photography that you do intend to use it for. This lens is fairly priced. I wouldn't say it's too expensive either. So for a niche lens like this, and you want to play around with a rectilinear lens, this is a very good one to go with. I have taken a look at a few other offerings from different manufacturers. Example, the Canon 11-24, it is extremely expensive. And while that is a zoom and at 11mm the widest, this is 1mm wider, and sometimes that 1mm can make a difference. So just be mindful of that. And of course, it is a lot lighter than the Canon as well. But if anything, that's about it from me. So if you do have any other questions, please feel free to leave a comment down below. And if you already own one, let me know what you think of it. And be sure to subscribe to my channel for more Samyang lens reviews and tutorials. Be sure to share it and also like to show your support. You can also take a look in the description down below for more information about the lens, as well as affiliate links that do help support the channel. Until then, happy shooting and thanks for watching.